Welcome, this is a video tutorial to learn how to play 4XS, which is a 9-card 4X space game for 1 to 2 players aged 12 and up, with an optional 3-part legacy campaign. The game is entered into the 9-card contest for 2019 as my one and only entry. The game is quite big, so this video is going to sort of teach you how to play. First of all, components. There are 2 colors in the game, so if you play with 1 player, you'll be using the white pieces and a set of tracking cubes. If you're playing a 2-player, you'll use both the white and the black pieces. This is your carrier, your main ship, which is represented by dice. The number represents the level of the carrier. The cubes in this case represent a shuttle, and here they're used to track some of the resources. These cubes are also used to track resources. The resources are carbon, silica and metal, and the red that goes around the outside is lux, or some people like to call it space books. Carriers start in galaxy. They don't go into the systems. Shuttles, they can be in the systems or docked inside the carrier. The way I look at it is that carriers are too large and valuable to lose, so they're always out there in dead space where they cannot be found or attacked. Okay, this is an example of the game sort of mid-game, if you like, so it's not the original initial setup, but it just helps illustrate some of the actions that we'll be referring to. Please have your player aid handy and go through these with me. I'm going to do a harvest as the light force player. They are in a galaxy where there are 2 carbon systems and 1 metal system. And they have a choice. They can harvest metal, in which case they'll get 2 metal, like this. Or they can choose to harvest carbon. And because there are 2 systems, they would get 2 resources per system, so that would be 4. They would get 4, however, the level of their carrier is level 1, and it doesn't allow them to carry 4. The level limits are indicated on this card here. So level 1 allows you to carry 3 resources, level 2, 4, level 3, 5. Right now we're at level 1, so I can only take 3 resources. If you're trying to harvest a resource that isn't there, for example, in this case, silica is not here, you just can't do that. Okay? The Dark Force player is going to take their turn and harvest. They can take either 2 carbon or 2 silica. They'll take 2 silica. Some of these, these resources are rare depending on so the amount of metallic systems in the whole game is 12%. The amount of silica available, 25%, and carbon is the most common. It's 63%, something like that. Okay. Okay, so that's the first action, harvest. The next action is jump. Oh, forgot to say, harvest can only be done by the carrier, and it's a free action. Jump can be done by the shuttle or the carrier, and it costs money, costs lux. So when you're jumping, you can jump along these dotted lines. These dotted lines are called jump lines, and they go from galaxy to galaxy. Let's say the light force player wanted to move. They could pay 1 lux and jump over here. They could pay 1 lux and move their shuttle into any of the systems here, or here, or here even. Let's say they wanted to both travel at the same time. They would pay 1 lux. Excuse me. The ship would reposition and they'll travel together. So At the beginning of your turn, you can reposition all of your shuttles. Repositioning means you can put them on different systems to give you different bonuses, or you can dock them inside the carrier. A level 1 carrier can carry 1 shuttle, and they can move together and just pay 1. Now it's the Dark Force player's turn. They can spend 1 to also move across one of the dotted lines. They can leave their shuttle there behind if they want to, take it with them, or move it instead. The next action is going to be attack. Excuse me. Let's say the Dark Force has more shuttles than before. Attack only takes place when a shuttle is in a galaxy where another shuttle is also present. An opponent's shuttle. So in this scenario, there would be a Light Force shuttle and a Dark Force shuttle in one system in a galaxy. Great. The Light Force chooses to attack. Attacking involves rolling dice. And we call this take a risk, and it's represented in this table here, which is used for 3 things: repeating an action, surviving an attack, and completing missions. So we're going to do surviving an attack. You always roll so that you don't die. That's the thing. So you're always rolling defensively. And in this case, I am unsupported, as in I don't have any other shuttles as such, or I don't have the carrier in the same galaxy to provide support. So I'm rolling, I need to roll a 5 or a 6 to not die. Before I do that, as the attacker, I'm going to have to do this first. So before I do that, I can spend Lux to boost my die roll. So if I spend 1, 2, 3, that means if I roll a 1, it'll be 1 plus 3, that would be 4, I would fail. So anything other than a 1 and I will survive. So let's try. Excellent, that was close. So I survived. And now the Dark Force player chooses to do that. But he's not so bothered about losing this shuttle. So he decides to just roll, and hopefully he'll roll high. He doesn't. And the shuttle is destroyed. It returns to the Dark Force shuttle supply. And if I wanted to, I could track that kill on here with a cube from either on the board or from my shuttle supply, and I could put it there and track the kills in that middle track there. If the attack would take place here, when I would roll, I'd have the same odds because there are no other ships of my color supporting me there. So I'd have to roll a 5 or a 6. And if I survived, then I would be able to stay there and carry on for my next turn. The Dark Force player, when they roll, they are supported by the carrier. So their odds are slightly better. They'd have to roll a 4, 5 or 6 to not die. Let's play that out. So I'm not going to boost my roll because I'm feeling very confident I can take this on. What do you know? 6. And this is me attacking them. They need to roll a 4, 5 or 6. They decide to spend 3 Lux, and then they don't need to roll because 3 plus 1 is 4, and that would be enough to not survive. This way we both survive and the game continues, and now it's their turn. Let's say if I didn't survive and let's say someone didn't survive and one of these ships was destroyed. Let's say mine was destroyed. Because there are no other ships here of my color, and because the carrier is here, they can take the wreckage from my ship and gain 2 metal. And this is referred to as loot. Okay. However, if it had been their ship that got destroyed and my ship was still here, they wouldn't be able to gain that wreckage because I would still be in the area. Yep. So that's how attack works. Attack covers a few things, right? It covers the support that you get, the taking a risk. You're able to boost your risk with Lux, and if you win as the attacker, you get to mark your kill and count the kills you've done. And why is this important? Well, defeating 4 shuttles as the attacker is one of your objectives to win the game. And the other thing that we mentioned was loot. So there's quite a lot to do with attack. But that's enough for now. Okay, let's bring that back. Next one is trade. Okay. We'll focus on this light force ship for this case. We can see that we have certain resources. I'm going to just add 3 silica just to demonstrate how this works. When you trade, you look at the systems available in this galaxy, and they determine the rate of exchange. They tell you what's in demand and what there's a surplus of. So I can see that in this system here, there's a surplus of carbon. So really, carbon doesn't pay, but it's cheap. Here it's fairly balanced, but there's no silica. So silica is in demand here. Now I'm going to sell something which is a fairly balanced trade. So I'm going to sell 1 carbon, and that's going to get me 1 lux. Great. I can on the same turn spend 1 lux to buy 1 metal. I can spend as much lux as I like, maybe 2 more, to get myself up to 3 metal. Because there's only 1 of them, right? Now I'm going to sell something that isn't here. Silica. There's no silica here. So in this trade ratio, you would lose 1 silica and gain 2 lux. So 2 for 1, because it's rare. Okay. I want to highlight one of the bonuses here, which is associated with this action called leverage. This action gives you 1 more lux every time you sell a resource, if only you sell resources. So you can't sell and buy like I did here, which is exchanging one for the other and then trading 1 back, etc. So only if you sell, for example, if I was here and I wanted to sell carbon, and I had one of my shuttles on a system that would give me the bonus, which says when you trade to gain lux, gain 1 lux more per resource sold. Now that I'm here, there's no carbon here, so there's a demand for that. If I were to sell 1 carbon, it would give me 2 lux. And the additional lux I get from this bonus. So 3 lux for every carbon I sell. So I'll sell 1 carbon and it'll give me 3 lux. That's great. I can keep selling on this turn and still get the bonus, but I can't get the bonus if I buy and sell on the same turn. So I'm going to sell some more. Here I'm going to sell 1 metal. Now metal is rare, so that's 2. I have the bonus, so that's 3 lux. 1, 2, 3. I'm up to 12. I'm going to sell 1 more. And you notice here the numbers go up to 9, 10 consecutively, and then they skip the odd number. So 10, 12, 14, 16, and so on. That means if you don't make 2, or multiples of 2, you're going to lose 1 lux every time you use this currency. I'm going to try and sell another metal. Again, it's rare, so I get 2. I have the bonus from this presence here, which gives me 1 more, that's 3. I try to increase it by 3, it would go to 15. But there's no 15 space, so it has to go back down to 14. This difficulty in using lux when you have a lot of it is called tax. I'm sure you all know about that. Okay, so we've done trading, There's a regular rate and the rare rate, and that's represented here by these two lines. So it's 1 for 1 for normal and 2 for 1 for rare. Let's go to here and see what happens when there is 2 carbon. There's a lot of carbon, so it's cheap. You would spend, the Dark Force player would spend 1 lux to gain 2 carbon. And if the system had, let's see, if the system had nothing but carbon, they would spend 1 lux to get 3 carbon. This applies when you're selling as well. You don't get a lot of money for carbon. Well, you have to spend a lot of carbon to get 1 money. In this case, you'd have to spend 3 carbon to get 1 lux. Not the best place to sell carbon. Okay, and that's the trade. Envoy or envoy. This is also a carrier-only action. Anything to do with the resources that you have, the metal, silica and carbon, is mainly done by the carrier. Shuttles can only jump and attack. That's all they do. But that's quite an important role. Okay, so the Light Force player is going to envoy. And this costs 3 lux. Now I'm at 14. I can't pay 3, I have to pay 4. So that's a shame. And then I get to choose which direction to envoy in. Envoy is the exploration element of the game. However, the way I've framed it is that we already know what the galaxy looks like. It's already been explored, discovered. We have telescopes. This is the future after all. So what we're really doing here is we're establishing access rights and mining rights. Those access rights come from the jump lines, and the mining rights are what we've been doing earlier, harvesting. Let's say I wanted to envoy here. I would shuffle and draw a random card, and I would place it in a very particular way. You see this? This is the right way to place it. Now, how do I know that? First of all, the text is the right way around, so I can read it. And also, the short side is next to the long side. So this would be wrong. So you could try and turn it, but then the long side and the long side don't add up. So you'd have to flip it over. The text is upside down here. That's not right. There we go. We have the short side next to the long side, and the text is the right way around. When the map gets built up, you'll see that all the tabs for the missions should line up. Everything should be legible to the player. So I usually say when we set up that you should sit next to your opponent, not across from them, because they wouldn't be able to read the text as easily as you. So I've envoyed. That was 3 lux that I spent. Great. The Black Force, the Dark Force player wants to envoy, but galaxies cannot have more than 3 systems in them. So the only place they could envoy would be here, and that would mean that the galaxy would have 4 systems, and that is a limitation that I've placed on the game to create more interesting maps. So they could perhaps jump over here and then envoy in this direction, or jump over here and envoy either in this direction or in this direction. Okay, so we'll just leave it at that. Okay, that's the envoy. I mentioned the bonus from the previous action. There's also a bonus associated with the envoy action, which requires you to have presence in 2 carbon systems. That's what this means here. And presence is derived from having shuttles in those systems. Remember that at the beginning of your turn, you can reposition as many shuttles as you like throughout the map. That will redefine what bonuses you have available to you every turn. So I reposition my shuttles to make sure I get this bonus, and I can then, I'll tell you what it is. After you envoy, gain 5 lux. So I'm going to envoy, choose a card and choose a direction, place that card there. It costs me 3, 1, 2, 3, but I gain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. and that's how you make use of the bonus when you do certain actions. I'm going to skip the next two actions because they're related to the legacy game. They are Occupy, which is another way to gain presence, and Link, which allows you to control the jump lines between the systems. We'll skip over to Deploy, and this is the action where you are able to build more ships. So to deploy you need a certain amount of resources. Let's say we had this many resources. A deploy is a carrier only action, and it requires 2 metal, 1 silica and 1 carbon. You'll see most of these are 2 of something, 1 of the other, yeah, except the last one, which is 2 of each plus something else. So deploy, you would the Light Force player is going to deploy. They'd spend 1, 2 metal, 1 silica, 1 carbon. They would take a cube from their shuttle supply and place it anywhere in any system in the galaxy their carrier is in. Buff. If there were no cubes here, I could take this cube, for example, and place it there. If I didn't want to do that, I could take this cube, which is tracking the kills, remove it from the track card and place it there. I would lose the progress I made on the kill track, but I'd be able to have 4 of my shuttles in play. Okay. Let's just return some of these. So when you deploy, great, you get another shuttle. There's a bonus associated with this. However, it's not here. It's actually up on the harvest one. This bonus is called Industry. After you deploy or upgrade, you may harvest on the same turn. For this, you need presence in 1 metallic system, which I have. So I've just deployed, I get my ship, I put it there. Now I have another shuttle, and I can harvest on the same turn. If we remember, harvest is a free action that allows you to gain resources. So I've got plenty of carbon. I'm going to take 2 silica up to my maximum capacity. Great. That's all 1 turn. If you have presence in a metallic system, you can deploy and harvest on the same turn in that order. The last action to highlight is upgrade. Excuse me. The upgrade is when you increase the pip on your die to represent your carrier upgrading from level 1 to level 2, from 2 to 3 and 3 to 4, 4 being the maximum level. Upgrading costs, let's say we had some metal there. It would cost 2 metal, 2 silica and 2 carbon, and that would increase my die from level 1 to level 2. I'd also have to pay 2 lux. 2 lux. So you pay 2 carbon, 2 silica, 2 lux, and, did I say lux? 2 carbon, 2 silica, 2 metal, and lux equal to the new level you are upgrading to. Again, I have presence here, and the industry bonus lets me harvest after I've deployed or upgraded on the same turn. So I'll do that. I'll get some carbon. I would get 4, 2 for each carbon system in this galaxy. And now I can actually make use of those 4 resources because my level has gone up. I can carry more things. I can also reposition ships into my cargo, into my hangar, into my carrier, as of the next turn. Remember, reposition always happens at the beginning of your turn. We'll just go through turn order quickly, although it's been mentioned before. What you're doing is you reposition, and then you check your presence. That'll give you different bonuses. And then you have to do an action. And that might mean you want to do the same action twice. I'll talk about that in just a second. After you finish your action, you check to see if you've won. If you've won, the game ends. If not, it's the next player's turn. So let's say you wanted to do the same action again. Let's say I wanted to harvest. That's okay now. Let's go over here. Here. Let's say I harvest and I get 2 silica. And let's say I wanted to harvest again. Let's say I didn't have any carbon. I wanted to harvest again. Repeating an action involves taking a risk. Taking a risk gets riskier the more times I repeat the action. So on the first time I repeat, I need to roll a 3, 4, 5, or 6. Again, I can boost this with some lux, which I'll do this time. So I'll spend 2, and then I don't need to worry about that, and I can harvest without needing to roll a dice. I've mitigated the risk with lux, which is essentially energy. Let's say I wanted to harvest a 3rd time. I would have to roll a die and get a 4, 5, or 6, or boost my die roll. If I didn't want to pay and I rolled poorly and I failed, I would have to forfeit my action. That means I don't get to do my action. I get to reposition my ships and count presents, but the action that I tried to do, I just can't do it. Still, on that turn, I can do another thing, which is completing missions, which we'll talk about later. Okay, so that would be that. And that leads us on to missions, yes. Okay. Let's find an easy one here on this card. So if we look at this map card, there are missions along the middle. We talked about the jump lines, the systems. The systems have all an individual letter or number, and that relates to these tabs here. In the mission, there's a little bit of flavor text, and there's an order and a risk reward just over there. And in the tab, there's a black line at the top, white line at the bottom. That's for the legacy, really. And the letter I tells you where this mission is being offered. Okay, so this mission is being offered here. The green line sort of tells you that it's been offered by the populace, which is the alliance which normally resides or is related to the green carbon. Mission J is being offered by the Discovery Corps, which is a science sort of thing, and they're over here. Now these colors don't need to match. K, this is the Industrial Tim Trifecta faction alliance, and they're over here, and they have some other business they need doing. We'll go for this one, Tracon Lux. Okay, this is an easy one. I, send 1 shuttle to L. Okay, so you need to be in I, and you need to send the shuttle to L. Let's say the Dark Force player is interested in this mission. The Dark Force player has 1 carrier and 1 shuttle in this system. That means that all of these missions, mission number 3, I, and Q over here, these are all automatically requested. That is to say that they can complete any of these missions during their turn. They say, oh, I is pretty easy, I'm going to give that a shot. So they say, I'm going to jump. So they spend a lux because jump has a cost of 1 lux. They send their shuttle and they put it in L. And that's the end of their action. And the mission objective is fulfilled. Send 1 shuttle to L. The risk is high, but they get 7 lux if they succeed. They're not going to pay for it because they can always try next time if they fail. So they roll well, the mission is successful, and they get 7 lux. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That would be 11. But they get knocked back down to 10 due to tax. And they've completed mission mission I. Until they do another mission, until they complete another mission, they can't repeat this mission. But once they've completed a different mission, then they can redo this one. You might find some good combination of 2 missions that have a synergy where being in this place allows you to complete this mission, and being in this place allows you to complete this mission. That's totally fine. So long as you don't do the same one 2 times in a row, that's fine. The other limitation is you can only do 1 mission per turn. So complete 1 mission per turn. You can complete the mission at the beginning of your turn, at the end of your turn, in between repositioning and doing your action, it doesn't matter. Okay. Again, if you want to see the risk, a high risk mission, you need to roll higher. Medium risk, a little bit less. Low risk, it's almost guaranteed, but you could always roll a 1 or a 2. In most cases, it's better to pay, because the amount that you pay is usually a little bit less than the money that you gain. Okay. To complete missions, you have to be there. So if this had moved here for some reason, then a mission offered at System I is no longer requested. So you've moved away. There's no one there to coordinate the success of this mission, which is invasive species, avoid all contact, neutralize the outbreak, send 1 shuttle to L, risk high, reward 7 lux. That's what that is. So we've covered all the actions. Ba-da-bam. We've covered the components. We've covered the track card and how that works. We've covered the missions. This is the bulk of the game. Once you set up, all you really need is this. And we've also talked about presents giving you certain bonuses. Bonuses, by the way, they do stack. So if you have 2 carbon systems with your ships in them, with your shuttles in them, they'll give you presents for both of these. And obviously they stack. So if you have all 3, if you have 3 carbon systems, then you also get the bonus for having 2 and 1. The carrier, because it's not in a system, because it's in the galaxy in dead space somewhere, doesn't count towards presence. The only thing that does add to presence, which I haven't mentioned in detail, is Occupy, which is a legacy rule, an action for the legacy mode. Okay. And this is how you play the 2-player game, with the actions explained as such. Okay, I'll give it a shot. Let's see.